Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavalabha Jaya Giri Varadhari Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Radha Gadada Shivasadi Gauda Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Radha Gadada Shivasadi Gauda Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Jai Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Jai Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So, we're reading today from the Caitanya-caritāmṛta. Hare Krishna. So we have the book here in English, in German. So I read the verses in English from my phone. So the actual verse is 290. Wer braucht deutsche Übersetzung? Du brauchst wahrscheinlich deutsche Übersetzung und Parampusha. Ich habe sie in Englisch. So könnt ihr das Buch nehmen, das deutsche Buch, oder wer auch immer, übersetzt, und ich lese vom Telefon. 290. So this Caitanya-caritāmṛta is a very special book which we're reading. It's about the life and pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You're from South India? Yes. So in South India, you have heard of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Usually it's not so much known. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a saint from Bengal. And not only a saint, according to the contemporaries of who lived with him, and from the scriptures, we can see that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is an incarnation of Lord Krishna. He lived around 500 years ago or more, half a century. And his pastimes were very amazing. And his instructions were very amazing, what he was giving. And he's actually the origin of the Hare Krishna movement, one could say. He's the founding father of the Hare Krishna movement. And he's the reason why we're all here. And we are doing this style of kirtan, like when we're standing and singing the names of the Lord. We're dancing. And also we're going through the streets. Sometimes you see us, the Hare Krishna movement, going through the streets of every almost major city in the whole world. You can see in this Ratha Yatra. We have Ratha Yatras in Munich. You're from Munich, or?
No, Nuremberg.
Nuremberg, okay. Nuremberg we don't have Ratha Yatra, but in Munich we have Ratha Yatra.
We have einen Verein, Krishna-Verein.
Yeah, that's very good, yeah. So you see Krishnas everywhere. So, but we have, the amazing thing is that with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy, now all over the world actually there's Krishna consciousness. And Srila Prabhupada introduced this Nagara Sankirtan. It said walking through the villages of the walking through the roads of the villages and spreading the holy names of the Lord. And this is a very sweet and amazing way to bring Krishna and God to the people instead of being locked up in the temple. Sometimes in India we have some temples which are locked up and nobody's allowed in. I mean, we Westerners are not allowed in. And but actually the Lord is omnipotent and he can show himself to anybody. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made this very amazing prediction that in one day, in every town and village, the holy names of the Lord are going to be chanted. And this is what has come true, and it's becoming more and more true because we're seeing so many people traveling around, monks, and preaching the holy names of the Lord and the glories of the holy name. Like we have Vidasara, this brahmacharis, you see in Saffron. They're traveling, they have a Sankirtan van, they have a car, they're traveling throughout major cities and then distributing books and telling everybody about the glories of Lord Krishna. So it's an amazing service they're doing. And you can also support them, give them donations to go on their journey and distribute more books. Because it's something very glorious if we can give the Bhagavad Gita and other scriptures to other people, because it's touching the heart. It's something very special. So, then now we're going to read from this Caitanya-caritāmṛta. This chapter is about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaking to Rupa Goswami and his instructions of how, because he's instructing Rupa Goswami to write the scriptures of Vaishnava behavior, of Vaishnava sadachar, the behavior and the conduct of a pure Vaishnava. And he's giving several, actually almost the whole chapters about the instructions he's giving. And it's very interesting to see how he's empowering, and this is going to be the topic of today's lecture, empowerment. How Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is empowering a conditioned soul, not Rupa Goswami is not a conditioned soul, but how in general Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is empowering, how great personalities are empowering, how we can see empowerment in today's society, and what is actually empowerment. So that's very interesting. And here he is empowering Rupa Goswami to write and to compose amazing verses in glorification of Lord Krishna. So he's just, because Rupa Goswami is already a liberated soul, still he is, he's getting the blessings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally. So it's a very special occasion. So we read here, Shri Rupa So the original verse is also written in Bengali. It's an old Bengali. Rudra rupa dhari kare jagat sanghara srishti stiti pralayahaya ichaya janhara. The Supreme Lord in his form of Rudra brings about the dissolution of this material creation. In other words, only by his will are there creation, maintenance and dissolution of the whole cosmic manifestation. Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva are his three incarnations of the material qualities. Creation, maintenance and destruction respectively are under the charge of these three personalities. Garbhagashaya Vishnu, known within the universe as Hiranyagarbha, and the Antaryami or Supersoul is glorified with the Vedic hymns, beginning with the hymn that starts with the word Sahasrashirsha. The second personality of Godhead, known as Garbhagashaya Vishnu, is the master of each and every universe and the shelter of the external energy. Nonetheless, he remains beyond the touch of the external energy. The third expansion of Vishnu is Kshirodakashaya Vishnu, who is the incarnation of the quality of goodness. He is to be counted within both types of incarnations, Purusha avatars and Guna avatars. So here it's explained that in the creation of in the Jagat, in the universe, there is first Garbhagashaya Vishnu is laying down in the causal ocean, and then from his navel Lord Brahma comes. And this is Garbhagashaya Vishnu. And then we have Kshirodakashaya Vishnu, who is within as a Paramatma in the soul of everybody, in the heart of everybody, present and giving us intelligence. So this is Kshirodakashaya Vishnu, which is described here, who is the incarnation of the quality of goodness. He is to be counted within both types of incarnations. Kshirodakashaya Vishnu, the Lord in the heart, is the universal form of the Lord and is the super soul within every living entity. He is known as Kshirodakashaya because he is the Lord who lies in the ocean of milk. Also that. He is the maintainer and master of the universe. O Sanatan, I have definitely described the three Purusha avatars of Vishnu. Now please hear from me about the pastime incarnations. No one can count the innumerable pastime incarnations of the Lord Krishna, but I shall describe the principal ones. Some of the pastime incarnations are the fish incarnation, the tortoise incarnation, Lord Ramachandra, Lord Nrsimha, Lord Vamana and Lord Varaha. There is no end to them. O Lord of the universe, best of the Yadu dynasty, we are offering our prayers unto you mainly to diminish the heavy burden of the universe. Indeed, you diminished this burden formerly by incarnating in the form of a fish, a horse, Hayagriva, a tortoise, a lion, Lord Nrsimha, a boar, Lord Varaha, and a swan. You also incarnated as Lord Ramachandra, Parashuram, and Vamana, the dwarf. You have always protected us demigods and the universe in this way. Now please continue. This is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 10-40. I have given a few examples of pastime incarnations. Now I will describe the Guna avatars, the incarnations of the material qualities. Please listen. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is categorizing the different incarnations, because we hear of so many incarnations, but we don't know who is who, it becomes like a forest. And so we see first there are the Leela incarnations which execute pastimes, like Ramachandra, Nrsimha, he came to rescue Prahlad. Then we have Varaha, who killed Hiranyaksha, and then also with his tusk lifted the earth from the mud of the material creation. And then there are also the here described as the Guna avatars, the incarnations of the material qualities. And as follows. There are three material functions within the material world. Everything there is created, everything is maintained for some time, and everything is finally dissolved. The Lord therefore incarnates himself as the controllers of the three qualities, which are Sattva Guna, Raja Guna, and Tamaguna, goodness, passion, and ignorance. Thus, the transactions of material world take place. Because of his past pious activities mixed with devotional service, the first-class living entity is influenced by the mode of passion within his mind. So, all of us are influenced by these qualities. We have Rajaguna, you have heard Rajaguna, Sattvaguna, and Tamaguna. So Tamaguna is the energy which is dragging us down. Passion or Rajaguna is this energy which makes us act in a sometimes not very smart way. And Sattva Guna is the energy which gives us intelligence and understanding of the world. So all these three energies, we always succumb to them and working within this universe under their influence. And now we hear of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. Such a devotee is empowered by Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. In this way, an incarnation of Krishna in the form of Brahma engineers the total creation of the universe. So here we hear about Brahma being empowered by Vishnu to engineer the universe. Purport: the Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, Purusha avatar expansion of Lord Vishnu, accepts three material modes, Sattva, Raja and Tamaguna, and thus incarnates as Lord Vishnu, Brahma and Shiva. These are incarnations of the material qualities. Among the many superior living entities qualified within the pious activities and devotional service, one, called Lord Brahma, is infused with the quality of passion by the supreme will of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. So it's said that Lord Vishnu empowers Lord Brahma, infuses him, as said here, with the quality of passion to be able to create this universe. Thus Lord Brahma becomes the incarnation. So not only he empowers him, but even he becomes the incarnation of the creative energy of the Lord. Om Agyana Timirandasya Giranjana Shalakaya Shakshurumalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swaparantikam. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namusate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatru Vishya Kripa Sindhu Bhasha Patitanam Bhavani Vaishnavevi Namo Namaha. Namo Vishnuvaraya Krishna Prishta Bhutali Shrimate Kanavakanana Swamiji Namani. Namo Vishnuvaraya Krishna Prishta Bhutali Guru Das Chaitveja Swamiji Namani. Namo Vishnuvaraya Krishna Prishta Bhutali Shrimate Bhakti Viranta Swamini Namani. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Vishesha Sunyavadi Patskatari Desha Tarini. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So here we hear about the principle of empowerment. So I will take a big turn of the explanation of empowerment, because sometimes it is in our society misunderstood. What does empowerment mean? So first of all, we have the contemporary context of this material world, and then I will go into the spiritual significance of empowerment. Materially, we see empowerment, especially there have been certain movements about the women empowerment movement, and they have been very strong. And it was about to give the ladies, especially in Western society here in Europe and in America, give them the opportunity to equal rights, to be able to work, to be able to be into the emancipation of the lady, to be independent, self-reliant, and not vulnerable to any outer influence. But this is actually a very limited view, because we see that the lady is, in the traditional way, a caring element. And if we abuse and misuse empowerment, it can even hurt. So in this view of seeing that the ladies' empowerment movement, we see that ladies have been abused to work very, very hard instead of being protected at home. So instead of being protected, actually they're being exploited. And thus, people are just turning around the words. Instead of empowering, they're actually just exploiting. They're giving them seemingly the empowerment. And another way we have seen in history was the empowerment of the black people, the Afro-Americans in America, which were empowered to act in a social way. So that was a social elevation of a discriminated people, which is also very interesting. They were abused in a certain way as slaves, and they were not treated in the right way, but then they were empowered in a certain way to act within society in a normal way. And thus we see the element of power. What does power mean? Power means is the energy to give responsibility and also to give blame to others. So if you're in a position of power, you can use it to get things done. You can make things happen. And so one way of empowerment is, okay, you empower somebody to act in a certain way, but also you can empower to empower themselves. Like this humanitarian works, which we are some people are going to poor countries, and they're helping them, but the best help is to help themselves. Because if you just give them some food or something, they might just eat it up and then it's again gone. But if you give them education and knowledge how to act within this material world, then actually they can sustain themselves for a longer and longer time. So this is in the social view, what does empowerment mean? And so we must understand that empowerment can be used materially or also abused, just for the personal gain of the people and those who are in power. So therefore we understand what is our real power, what is the power of the self to act within this world. And the power of the self is the decision to make if we want to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead or if we want to act in a selfish, egoistic way. And we can see that we ourselves are crippling our independence by being subservient to our senses. Because if we follow the urges of our senses, we're giving control, the power of our own self to our senses. Okay, I want to eat ice cream, I want to do this. I just follow my senses without any rationale. But if you understand, okay, I want to, for example, pass an exam, especially in India, it's very tough education, and to get your masters and be A grades, very good, you need to study very hard and work very hard. And you have your goal, and for this you renounce different things, isn't it? You must work very, to come here in Germany must have been very tough. And so if you have a goal, we need to renounce other things. So that means empowerment. So you can self-empower yourself. So you can empower yourself by controlling your senses, which is completely contradictory to modern advertisement, which we see which is all the time deluding or trying to actually disempower yourself. Because a person who is not empowered, who follows his senses, is very easy to sell something to, isn't it? It's like, oh, look, a nice juice. Oh, I want to drink the juice. So you buy it immediately, Go on Amazon, click, buy, order. So we get manipulated to just follow our senses, because such a person or human being is very easy to be manipulated. And this is actually what governments want. You show them certain things, nice media, and you stir up their minds, their emotions, and then you can give them whatever you want them to think and have, or you want to sell them something. That's all what is advertisement about. You want to create the desires within them. So we must be, in spiritual life, we are trying actually the opposite, not to have only physical or social empowerment, but we need to have the empowerment of the soul, that the soul is actually able to act in an independent way, acting out for his own self welfare. And the welfare of the soul is to act in Krishna consciousness. Because if we don't act in Krishna consciousness for our own self-interest, then we will be unhappy. It's completely unnatural for the soul if we're just trying to satisfy our senses. But if we try to serve the Lord, pray to Him, worship Him, it's greatly satisfying. Just by you coming here to the temple, you'll come back home and say, wow, that was such a nice experience. Or just being here in the temple and doing service, it's actually very satisfying. So this is a very important point that we understand very deep, because sometimes we get entangled by material things and circumstances, think, okay, I must change this or that circumstance. But actually, the main thing that empowers us to be happy and also empowers us to make right decisions is that we act in devotional service. So this is the very important principle of empowerment of the self. And in a team, or we're speaking about three qualities which are important to receive empowerment. And a team is built, or a community, especially like we are living in a community. Like it's very interesting seeing from the social perspective. We have in India, you have usually just a mandir, the temple, and there is a priest, and that's it. But Srila Prabhupada had a very unique view of a temple, and his view was that the temple also grihastas can live in there. So we have families living here, and we have brahmacharis, monks living here. And we're both all together serving the Lord. And but it is creating a spiritual community, which is very nice. So if you live very close by here, you come regularly to the temple, you will see that it's a nice community, it's like a family. And we're growing together, it's like a spiritual hub we are creating here. So in this spiritual community, it's important that we empower ourselves also. And one important point of empowerment is, of course, first you empower yourself, you control your senses, try to be a pure devotee, but also empowerment of the community, of the social community in itself, meaning that senior devotees empower or instruct junior ones. It can be in many different ways we can be senior. Somebody can be senior in regards to having better skills in cooking. Somebody can be a better cleaner. Somebody can be a better pujari and can be a better this or that. But we empower somebody else. And this empowerment is not just done physically in a skill to do, but also in a way to empower the person to advance spiritually. And this is actually a loving community. That's the dynamics of a community where it's also the basic principle of Guru, basically, that you say, here's an advanced personality, and I surrender to him, and I'm begging for empowerment that he might give me pure knowledge. And if you serve, as we say in the Bhagavad Gita, you serve the Guru in a humble way and ask him questions, then he will reveal the truth unto you. So if we serve the senior devotees and ask them in a humble attitude questions, then we will get spiritual knowledge. In a similar way in a community also, if we are together in a community and we serve and inquire, then we can get so much knowledge and so much wisdom. And this wisdom actually can create a team spirit. But it can be also amongst friends, just having this synergy of being together, acting together, and empowering one another. So this is the social view of empowerment, that we act as a team, basically. And this team can have a goal. So if for example, for a Sankirtan van, you have a certain goal. You know, we go to a festival and want to distribute 2,000 books. So you have a goal, and then you have your strategy, how you want to achieve this. And then you reevaluate yourself. Okay, how can we achieve this goal? Or we have as a community, we have a goal that we want to have be self-reliable, self-sustainable, and spiritual striving community, which has the goal to really inspire the whole community and be together as a family. Okay, how do we do this? And then we all work together and we have this goal in mind. And we have that's what you call strategic planning. You have, as a community, you come together and you make something, and then you break it up in smaller goals. And then once you achieve a goal, you go again and you reflect, okay, what are we doing effectively to attain this goal? And it's always a constant reminder yourself, okay, what do we want to do and how are we achieving it? And what am I myself contributing to it? Reflection, how effective is the way that we are implementing? So in a Sankirtan van also you have this constant view, and it's very important to self-reflect how powerful or how strong is the methods that you're using. Also in your spiritual life, how strong is your japa? How strong is your reading? How deep is your reading? Or are you just reading very superficially? So we should go very deep, and the more we go in the circle of having our goal in mind, then reviewing, setting our activities and then reviewing our activities, how efficient are they, and again putting more precise our goal. So the more we will become focused, and we can have a spiritual dynamic. We can spiral spiritually upward. But for this, it's very necessary that we have our goal in mind. And thus we have self-empowerment. And we will develop many qualities and skills in this process. So it's very important that we understand what do you really want? What is the goal of your activities? And then we can empower ourselves in this community. And what is the empowerment of yourself? We said before, the empowerment of yourself is, of course, to restrain your senses, to achieve this goal. Because also, as a community, you renounce certain comforts so that you can attain something. And especially here in the temple, we have some renunciation. And we renounce many things. They're just living here in the ashram, very simple. Sleeping, having only a bed and one cupboard, that's all they have, nothing more. So it's very nice to renounce, and it's actually a glory. It's something. It's a wealth to renounce, because once you're grihastas, you realize you're getting so much stuff just to have to facilitate the family life. But once you renounce, it actually becomes something very, very sweet. And in this renunciation also can be in the heart. It does not need to be physical, that you don't have anything, but that you actually are detached from your results, from all these nice fancy things within this world. So we must realize, how do we empower ourselves? How do we empower others? And be very also empathic to others. How can I help? Because if we cannot empower others, first of course we empower ourselves, but then also we try to empower and help others. But to be able to empower others, we must see, okay, where is the person standing at? What is his problem, or from where is he, what's the position from where he's fighting? What's the prerequisites he has? And how can I help him to come make the next step? And we in family life, we have with our children, you know, we let them grow, and we see, okay, what is the next point in their life that we need to teach them? We read certain books to them, we give them education, we answer the questions. But in a similar way also in the temple, we're growing up and we're having new people coming in, and we are asking ourselves, okay, how can we help those persons? And this is very important, because if somebody comes in a community and feels that he's being empowered in a way that he's maturing in a spiritual way, you feel like, wow, it's happening. I'm coming to a temple and I feel it's happening. It's meaning that you feel there's a certain development in yourself. And if you're stagnating, then you feel like, okay, what's happening? It's just like everything, the same things every day, you know. Halava, khichdi, sweet rice, halava, khichdi, sweet rice, every day. But there should be something more than that. There is a real spiritual life which comes dynamic. And these dynamics are very important that we develop. So we should view in ourselves, okay, how are we developing and how can we help others? And the more we become empathic to others, we can we have the ability to help them. Because if you try to help somebody but you understand the person, then you cannot really help them. You try to give them some advice or say something, but it's just like even might backfire. You know, they become angry at you, or they just say it's completely not relevant for me. You know, it's like you're talking about the moon, but I'm here. You know. So it's very important that we become empathic and understand where is the person at. And that's also the main thing of preaching, that we understand where is the person standing at and what can I give him. And that's also what people like in book distribution, where you actually listen to them. What do they have to say? And then you just give them a book and they're so happy. Like sometimes you talk to persons and then they talk most of the time. And then in the end of the conversation they say, oh, such a nice conversation, thank you. But you just were listening. So sometimes just to listen is something so important, something so caring. And sometimes we think caring means only that we talk. But listening can be the biggest thing that you can do, especially for your children. Listen to them. It's so powerful. It gives them self-confidence, knowledge, and they can self-reflect. So it's very important to start to listen and also ask them questions. Let them come to their conclusions. So that means empowerment. You give them the power to help themselves. So this is the meaning and the vision of empowerment. And the more we are clear about it, the more we can also act efficiently in our spiritual lives and also our material lives. We can have a proper life in sattva guna, not in passion, where we just are acting or doing something which is not actually yielding any fruits. And therefore we say that spiritual knowledge is very wholesome. It's not just like, okay, it's part of a certain thing which is now very divine, but it's actually, if you understand the whole concept of spiritual life, it can help your whole life actually. It can bring it to a level of goodness, but not only goodness, but pure goodness. It can elevate you to become a supreme, the best human being within this world, and to perfectionize this human form of life. Hare Krishna. So, are there any questions or comments to this? Dr. Brian. So usually I like to have many questions, and I also ask you to ask some questions, so think about some good questions, yeah? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the nice lecture. You just mentioned the point of empathy, how it's important also in the relationships, and you mentioned like listening as one of the methods also to develop more empathy. I was wondering if you have any other advice or like any other ways in which we can go towards developing more empathy.
Yeah, very good question. Thank you very much. Empathy is first is that you don't put yourself into the center. That you actually, when you're talking to the person or trying to understand the person, you put yourself in the shoes of that person. You try to see the world from their view, and not only because sometimes we try to see the person from the view of our experiences. Like somebody tells you, oh, I had this and this, and I said, yes, I also had the same experience, you know. But usually this answer is something which many people, it's not very helpful, because it was your experience, it's not their experience. You can use your experience to understand them, but if you answer only from your perspective, then you cannot actually really go very deeply to their hearts. So you try to understand what is their view, what have they gone through, and how are they experiencing now this moment. So, and also of course if you're regularly talking to the certain persons, then you try to understand their whole life. Not only the moment they're in, but also their life, from where did they come from, why are they here now, what is the desire, why they're here now with you interacting, and and where will they go on further on. So if you understand, especially from where they're coming from, the background, that's influencing a person, or is constituting a big part of the person itself. So it's very important to understand the person itself and not to have your view. The other thing is that you listen, and even if you don't know the person, that you just really listen and you understand small hints, you know, not because many people, we are not very good communicators. We are trying to communicate. It's funny, like we are trying with some words, we're trying to explain so many things, which are just some vibrations, but actually you're experiencing like so much more than what you can explain. So if you talk to a person, you try to understand what is behind the words. Maybe he cannot express himself, but what is actually behind this person, what he's saying. Especially when somebody is angry, it's usually not just that they're angry, there's something behind which is triggering that anger. It's like I heard, and there was somebody said like, the best way, if somebody becomes angry, how to react is not to shout back, but to be cool down and ask, what's your problem? How can I help you? You know. But if you shout back, then it becomes even more. It doesn't help at all, you know. But this shouting or this anger is an expression. There is something wrong in you. Something is wrong. But you just be very cool down and say, what is the problem? How can I help you? And the person, sometimes they're like, they become very bewildered. I thought you were fighting back or you're shouting back, you know. But then you need to go to the core of the heart of the whole thing. So it's important to listen in this way, but also to understand what is behind the words, what they're actually saying. Because many people, when they say bad things or certain things, it's not actually what they really want to say. And it's very nice if you see Srila Prabhupada's letters, what he's writing to his disciples. He's not sometimes giving very direct instructions. I thought like, you know, Prabhupada would be very heavy and direct, you hear sometimes. But no, he's actually sometimes very sweetly, indirectly hinting at things. And if you understand it, okay, then you really take it to the heart and you can understand the mission of it. So we need to be very subtle. And spiritual life is about being very subtle. Being subtle to the desires of the spiritual master, of Lord Krishna. What is he giving us? Sometimes he's giving so many hints in our lives, but we might not be really able to understand. But if we become subtle, then we can understand actually what does Krishna really want. Yeah. So this is, I think, something very important, that we go beyond the language barrier. We go deep within the hearts and emotions of the people. Hare Krishna. Sanjay? Sanjay.
Can you elaborate on not speaking too much, or how to say, on controlling speech?
We can control speech by first we can think, okay, what is essential to say? Because sometimes if we answer a person, we might over-answer the person. So what is actually the message that you want to say, or what you want to say at all, and what is your real intention behind it? Because sometimes it's not very clear for yourself, and then you just start talking in the middle of the talk, and you realize, oh, that's actually what I want to say. So before we express something, that we are very clear about it. I think that's a very important point. And but generally we are. I think most of the time we have a different problem as human beings. We're not communicating, especially in this modern age. We like to use the smartphones or digital media to communicate, and then we become very introverted persons. And so it's actually very important that we communicate. And I think for most of us, for 90% of the people, it's better to speak more than to less. Not prajalpa, but about yourself, and understand and speak, speak out, especially for males. We are very silent usually. We don't speak much, and we grumble something, we boil something within our heart, But ladies, they like to talk, Like my wife, and she talks, I feel so good afterwards, Okay, I was just listening, didn't do anything. Thank you. You just listen, But it's important that we talk. If there are certain things which are bothering us or something, we should say it out loud. And then big things, problems that we have become very, very small. It's like, it's not so bad, it's no problem. So therefore it's important that we talk, especially in the ashram, in the temple. We need to talk, and this is an important thing. Because if we think, we only need to be spiritual, we cannot talk about prajalpa, then you talk with nobody about your inner feelings or how you're doing in your life, then it's like, you become very impersonal, How are you, Prabhu? Yeah, very good. Hare Krishna. But who's the person behind it, And you really never really talked very deep. What is he going through, or what's happening? So I would say something like that, Hare Krishna. Next question. Yeah, Mataji, and then.
Thank you so much. I was listening to your lecture from the kitchen.
1 minute? Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Hare Krishna, thank you so much. I was listening to your lecture from the kitchen. That means that I know a bit what it's about, just a small piece. My question is the difference between to empower and to inspire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Connecting with the Brahmanic qualities.
But connecting with
Brahmanic qualities. Qualities, yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the question. It's an interesting question, because now we come into almost semantics. What's the different meaning of this word and that word? I think the word inspire comes from to giving God within the heart. Actually, if you go back to the Latins, spiritus, no? God, give God into the heart. So actually, if you inspire somebody, you're giving them the spirit, the God, the realization of God that you have to this other person, and he becomes like, I would say, electrified, or he becomes like motivated, extremely motivated to do something. If I say now, I make him inspired to go out, and there's a big slide, you can have fun there, and he becomes, I'm inspired to go there and have fun, because there's something very fun and something to do. So in a similar way, we have some spiritual experience, we inspire somebody, we give them a perspective of this spiritual vision that we have, and we give it to somebody, we inspire somebody. So, and then we have empower, which is that you give somebody the ability to do something, the ability to act in a proper way. Can be with knowledge, can be with understanding, that you give them the power to self-evolve, give them the power to act in a correct way, And in Brahminical perspective, it's that you empower them to act in sattva guna, that they are actually becoming so pure so that we can approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And inspiration, then, that we have the qualities or the purity to be a pure devotee. That we have, okay, I have this urgent desire, I want to become a pure devotee. That's actually what's satisfying my heart. Okay?
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. There was Balaram Pran.
Hare Krishna. I really think you mentioned a lot of not a lot of important points, maybe like 2 or 3 very essential points that I hope to remember or that we can reflect upon after the lecture. And I'm still trying, to connect the points, so please bear with me. But you mentioned the point about being personal, putting oneself in the other's shoes, especially when Brian talked about how to be more empathic. And yesterday I was talking to one devotee about the same thing, that actually the reason for us not being so empathic or something is what you said, not being personal enough. And that's what I heard in a lecture from Gour Maharaj about community building, how Prabhupada actually came to make us more personal, make us more... community means that there is personalism among the members of the community, so that, like what you said, putting oneself in one other's shoes. But like, can you think of any other reason for the lack of communication, for the lack of empathy, or for the misunderstandings that are happening, except of actually one not considering or perceiving the other person as actually a person with his own individuality, with his own identity, and different, you are just different from me, and I cannot expect something from you which is the same. And this usually happens on spiritual practice, spiritual sadhana, that we start criticizing other people because they are not doing as much as we are or something. So could you say something?
I would put in 2 parts. The first part being that first part of the question, I would say it's okay. Why are we not personal amongst one another? And then the second part being that we cannot. How are we personal, and how can we as a community create this personality amongst one another? So first of all, as you said, like putting oneself in the shoes of the others, but why we are not really personal to others is that we have our own, and then the other one was that you asked, okay, why are expecting so much of others? First of all is that we ourselves are a little insecure, and if you're yourself insecure in a community, it's you become very much afraid to open up, or also to, I would say, to give. If you're yourself in a confident position, you feel nicely taken care of and well situated, then you're able to give a lot. You feel like, okay, I can share something. But many people are just so. Of course, a monastery or a temple is a place where you working lots in your inside. So sometimes you become vulnerable if you're working so much on your insides and introspection. Then it becomes difficult to go so much outwards because we have so much internal work to do. And then you have the community, how we interact into one another. So how to be how to be in oneself in such position that we can interact and give so much. One part is I think important, that we have our senior devotees, but everybody can be part of it also. Junior, that we have this culture of empowerment, empowering ourselves, but also empowering others. And it doesn't mean that we give them responsibilities or so, but how I described it here now, because myself I had before the understanding, okay, empowerment means that I give somebody responsibility and let them grow in it, let them grow in it and blossom, and but there's something more to it, that we actually make them develop certain qualities, make them develop certain skills, and bring them step by step towards this goal that we have. Okay, our goal is to have a beautiful community, so we're all together working on this goal, and by step we're actually coming together and doing this. And so it's important that we as a community, we feel that we are being empowered. Every single member is feeling, okay, I'm being empowered, and that means he's feeling cared. He's feeling that, okay, I'm growing in my spiritual life, and also as a part of a community we are growing, because it's something most exciting. If you feel like something is growing, your family is growing, or something is growing, and this is bringing you really much forward, and feel like, and then if you feel cared, then you have trust, and then trust gives you the ability to surrender completely. Because if you're vulnerable, then you cannot really go out yourself. And that's actually what people with Prabhupada, they felt so much trust and love that they were able to give everything to Prabhupada. Because that's like, if you sometimes hear from Govinda Mataji or like this, it's just like Prabhupada was such a warm person. He was not just like some guru bring very heavy, but he was a very caring and warm personality. If you see how he dealt with Madhudvisa or others, it was very, very sweet, and was like, he was not at all like retaliating or being offended or this or that. No, Prabhupada was a really caring and sweet personality. And thus you feel the disciples, they felt so cared for. They said, yes, I can do something. Tamal Krishna Maharaj opening this, making that, said, Tamal Krishna, you go there, you're good, thank you very much. And then you read the letters of Prabhupada, you feel like, if I would receive such a letter from a spiritual master, I would feel like, wow, I'm so inspired. Just imagine yourself, if you read Prabhupada's letters, and feel like, how would you feel if you were in that position of this devotee whom Prabhupada is writing this letter to? And you feel it's actually this care and love. So if we can simulate the same care and love within our community, with the culture of empowerment, that we are growing in our spiritual lives and we are making steps, then actually you feel very secure, you are ready to give. But if you're not secure and you feel like not taken care of, but also you're not taking care of yourself because you're so insecure, it's both parts, it's yourself and also the whole community. Sometimes I have experienced taking responsibility here, is that you have individuals who cannot take care of themselves properly, and then they blame the community that they cannot take care of you. But it's not that the whole community needs to take care of you. You need to take care of yourself, and then as a part of the whole community, you can have a synergy where you can have a very nice outcome. But you must be a part of it. So it's a whole orchestra. It's a balance that we need to have. So and then if you have this, if you're a powerful individual which can be part of the community, then you can have a very nice contribution. And thus we should self-reflect, okay, how can I contribute myself, be a wholesome human being myself. I've talked to a friend lately, and he said, yes, after all these years in being Krishna consciousness, I realized I need to put away all this mask who I think I am, that I think I'm a puchari, I think I'm a cook, I think I'm a learned person, but just be the person who I really am. And this is the best contribution which I actually can give. Because if I try to fit in a box which is already made or something, it's not my real self. You need to be yourself, and then you can actually really contribute to the community. So therefore we need to empower ourselves. We read, we work on ourselves, we reassess what is our goal, and we do the circles to grow ourselves, and then we are part of a community which is also empowering every individual. And it's not only that top-down, empowerment also can happen amongst us. That's what Bhagavad Gita says. Empowerment happens especially from down up. If you yourself are becoming a very qualified disciple, you can expect a very qualified spiritual master. If you're not a qualified disciple, how can you expect that you will understand and learn everything, So that says, Tatvidi panipadena pariprashena sevai upadikshante ginas gyaninas tattvadarshina. If you want to see tattvadarshina, want to see the truth, you need to be a good disciple. So it means you need to be a qualified individual being to be able to be a part of an amazing community. So we need to be a very qualified personality. And this same applies to family life. It's a small community, you know. It's a community of 3, it's or 5 or 6, you know. You have in India, you have many communities, a whole village together, and have uncles and aunties. So everybody must be individually, and we can be together a very strong unit, which is caring and loving. It's our whole life, actually, you know. Especially when as a child you grow up, and your whole life actually is being that what you have experienced in your childhood. It's your personality is being like molded when you're young. So therefore, it's important that we take care of our children, especially in modern society where so much materialism allows around us, and we can get so much distracted, especially the children. You know, they're all the time playing games. But it's good that we actually give them real values. But this only comes if we're good examples, huh? Yeah, you like playing, I see. So we need to be very important. It's important that we have this community within ourselves. We empower them, like not that we say, okay, no mobile phone, no playing, but you must give them some substitute. What is better than that? You empower them to help themselves, you know, give them some tools, you give them something to learn, where they're excited about. So that's the same for us. Yeah? Hare Krishna. Other questions, comments? Yeah, you also have some question? Okay, can you give the microphone to Prabhuji? You just reflect. What do you remember from the lecture? What did you learn? Just something. What comes to your heart?
I understand about empowerment. Means it is not only in one way what we see woman empowerment or something like that. It is means how we see it. Nothing more.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
That's already good. It's important that we see like what is real empowerment. What would you remember? You want to say something? You're very active, very happy. He has too many questions. You're too shy. Who else? You want to say something? Yeah.
In the real life, the many people are thinking that the empowerment was the difference between the empowering someone and hypnotizing someone.
Hypnotizing?
Yeah.
Okay.
So in both the cases, empowering, bringing the inner potentials to explain how he's capable of doing it, and hypnotizing. Can you say something about this?
So I think you're referring with hypnotizing to manipulating a person to do something that you want yourself to be done? Yeah, and I think that's also very interesting.
In many people have the understanding of Bhagavad Gita is also like doing Krishna made something to the Arjuna, and
that he
then
hypnotized Arjuna.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I heard.
Interesting concept. It's a challenge, huh? Thank you very much.
You mentioned a synonym, exploitation.
Exploitation, yeah, that's another thing. Exploitation would be synonymous. Yeah, it's interesting. We see Bhagavad Gita in that light. Did Krishna hypnotize Arjuna, or did actually he empower Arjuna? So, so the one thing is that we need to understand what is the welfare for the person itself. And we see in the case of Arjuna, now going into Bhagavad Gita, is that the best welfare for Arjuna was that actually he would be fighting in Kurukshetra, because it was for his whole family, of course, but also for the Dharma and for the righteousness that should be upheld within society, not that just somebody can steal your kingdom and just go away with it. A thief needs to be punished. So in this way, Duryodhana needed to be punished. And Krishna was just empowering Arjuna to do the right thing. And he was giving the knowledge. And then in the end he's saying, Krishna's not saying, you go out and fight. No. Krishna says, Arjuna, I gave you all these instructions, but now you act as you want. And he doesn't say like he's heavily hammering, but do as you want, as you think what is right. I have given you the knowledge, I have given you the tools to act, but now you act. That's what's empowerment, that we actually give somebody the tools to act. So especially in our case in spiritual life, we need to understand what are our tools. And children, we need to give them the tools to be powerful in their life, It's many things are important. I think especially I realized lately that psychology, for example, is a thing that is not really taught in school so much. But I think should be taught in every school already from young age, so the people young person understand themselves. Who am I? Why am I thinking like this? Is it a group pressure that I made this decision, or is it just that I really want something? And what is actually wanting? Is it my mind, or is it my senses? And all of these things are very important for an individual to understand. So we need to give our children the tools so that they can develop themselves very nicely. I think that's an important point. Thank you very much. Sanjay Prabhu, last question? Comment?
I am very grateful that you mentioned how Srila Prabhupada was a very caring and emphatic personality who was not just heavy. And this is so important to understand deeply who Prabhupada was and how what a kind of person he was, how his dealings were. And one thought is connected to that, which came up in a conversation with one devotee a few days ago, is that in Caitanya-caritāmṛta, Rupa Goswami says, you should only associate with a person who is completely devoid of envy, and he's only engaged in devotional service. So Rupa Goswami says, you offer obeisances to one who is following the process, you in your mind you respect anyone who comes in contact, but you have association with that person who is actually very, very advanced. And we were thinking that some pure devotee has to be the center of any community, because without that it will not go up. And so I was thinking about this, and Srila Prabhupada is that common pure personality in our movement. So as much as we are connected with Prabhupada and understand Prabhupada, that much we have our common anchor which comes from above, and we hold on to each other and hold on to that anchor at the same time, and then we go up. If we don't have that kind of anchor, we will not go up. So I was thinking about this, and maybe you have something to say also in that regard, from that perspective.
Thank you very much. I think it's a very good point, that we see that Prabhupada is actually the one who is elevating us, and to have sadhu sangha. And as you say, it's like we can have association with Prabhupada by reading the books. He wrote so many nice books. There are so many nice books you can take home. And but it's important that when we read scriptures and we have read from a saintly person, we become purified and we elevate our lives. And Prabhupada is giving so amazing purports which have changed the lives of so many people and have enriched their lives. So if we have association with Prabhupada, we can elevate ourselves and actually purify ourselves. So I can recommend you can take 1 or 2 books and drop in a donation box there and read a little bit at home once in a while, and you have association with Srila Prabhupada. And we as a community, we need to have association with Srila Prabhupada. And as Govinda said yesterday in his offerings, that one Gaudiya Math devotee said, ISKCON is so successful because we have so much Guru Nishta, we have so much trust and faith in Srila Prabhupada. So it's actually very important that we read about Srila Prabhupada and talk about him and be very conscious about him. But also we have association with one another. That's very important. We talk together about Krishna. That's very elevating. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Caitanya-caritāmṛta ki jai. Gour Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.